Gold IRAs. Everyone's talking about them, right? Especially with all the economic what ifs swirling around. It's like when things get uncertain, people remember, oh yeah, gold, it's tangible, it's always had value. But then comes the question of, okay, but how do I actually add it to my portfolio? And are gold IRAs worth it?
And that's a smart question to be asking. A lot of people jump into gold IRAs because, gold, but they don't always consider the fine print, and that's where the fees come in.
Exactly. That's what we're diving deep into today, those gold IRA fees. What are you actually paying for, and are those fees worth it?
We're going to break it all down. To really understand if a gold IRA is right for you, you have to know what you're getting into before you even think about buying a single ounce of gold.
I like it. So no more burying our heads in the gold sand. We're tackling those fees head on. What do we got?
Right. It's important to remember, with a gold IRA, it's not just, oh, I'll buy some gold. You're working with a custodian.
Like a special bank, just for your gold.
Yeah, exactly. And they handle all the ins and outs, the paperwork, making sure you're following all the IRS rules to get those nice tax advantages. But of course, they've got to be compensated for that.
Makes sense. So where do those fees start?
Well, our research, looking at precious metals and gold IRA fees, it seems like most smaller gold IRAs, you're looking at something like $300 to $600 a year just to keep things running.
Okay. Not nothing.
No, not nothing. But it's important to break that down because those fees, they're not just random. They cover important stuff.
Yeah.
Like storage, for instance.
Wait, I can't just stick my gold bars under the mattress.
Unfortunately not. The IRS has rules about where that gold can be kept. It has to be in a secure, IRS-approved depository.
Ah, so it's like a high-security vault for my precious metals.
Exactly. And that peace of mind, knowing your gold is safe and sound, it comes at a price. Just like, anything else you'd store. Now, one thing that really affects the storage fees is whether you choose segregated or non-segregated storage.
Okay, so what's the difference there? So segregated or non-segregated storage. It's like choosing a studio apartment versus a penthouse suite for your gold, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Segregated storage is like having your own private vault. Your gold, totally separate, maximum security.
Sounds pricey.
It can be, yeah. Non-segregated is more like your gold is stored with other people's gold. All carefully tracked, of course.
Okay, so a little less exclusive, but probably easier on the wallet.
Exactly. Our source, Precious Metals and Gold IRA Fees, pointed out that non-segregated storage tends to be the more popular option, especially for folks who are, cost-conscious, but still want that security.
Makes sense. So we've talked about storage, but those management fees, those are every year too, right?
Yeah. Don't forget about your custodian. They're doing a lot behind the scenes, all the admin stuff, making sure everything's on the up and up with the IRS.
Basically earning their keep so I don't have to stress about it, right?
Exactly. Now, how those management fees are structured, that can vary. Sometimes it's a flat annual fee. Other times it's based on how much you have in your account, a percentage.
Oh, interesting. So do you think one way is better than the other?
It really depends. The article we were looking at, Precious Metals and Gold IRA Fees, they made a good point. They said for smaller accounts, sometimes that flat fee, even if it seems like a bigger number at first, it can actually be better in the long run. Because, that percentage, as your account grows, those fees grow too.
Ah, good to keep in mind. All right, so we've covered setup fees, storage, management. What about these transaction fees? How big of a deal are those?
Well, that depends. How often are you planning to buy and sell gold within your IRA? Because each transaction, it can come with a fee.
Ah, so it's like those brokerage fees you get when you trade stocks.
Yeah, kind of like that. So if you're someone who's buy and hold, this is my gold for the long term, transaction fee's not a huge deal. But if you're in and out, trading more actively, that's when you got to really pay attention. Those fees can add up.
So it's like choosing your transportation method. Are you taking the scenic route, or are you hailing a taxi every 5 minutes? One is going to cost a lot more than the other.
Exactly. And on top of that, don't forget about little things like when you first buy your gold, there would be shipping fees. Getting it to that secure depository, it's got to get there somehow.
It's always something, isn't it? Like, oh yeah, I forgot to factor in the cost of actually transporting this gold.
Right. And that's why, look, I know we're getting into the nitty-gritty here, but this is important stuff.
Yeah.
Before you sign on the dotted line with any gold IRA custodian, you got to shop around.
Yeah, just like you wouldn't buy the first car you see on a car lot, right? You got to compare.
100%. Don't just go with, oh, this company, they had a catchy jingle, or my neighbor uses them. You need to look at the fee schedule.
Read the fine print, basically.
Yes, and compare. Because remember, the price of gold itself, that's going to go up and down with the market, but those fees, those are going to be on top of that.
Okay, so be fee savvy. I like it. This has
Wow.
been a lot of info. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are thinking, okay, a gold IRA might be for me?
Well, I'd say a gold IRA, it can be a really smart way to, diversify your portfolio, potentially protect yourself against inflation. But just like any investment, it's not risk-free. And those fees, that's part of the equation.
You got to factor in the cost of doing business, right?
Exactly. So be informed. Do your research. Figure out what your goals are, your risk tolerance, and then find a gold IRA that aligns with that.
Great advice. All right, listeners, that was our deep dive into the world of gold IRA fees. Hopefully you feel a lot more informed. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your financial future. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.